Hi everyone. So this week I'm going to talk about the components of an essay, and I'm also going to be chatting about our essay rubric. So first thing is there are 4 big components to your essay. An introduction that includes your thesis statement, body paragraphs, and a conclusion. And remember that, like we talked about last week, an essay is always an opportunity to showcase your thinking. So I want you to be thinking about these 4 components as really an opportunity to help you organize your ideas for your audience. But the main thing is having those ideas. So first thing, what's an introduction? So I know this is going to sound silly, but I want you to think about the shower that you take before jumping into a public pool. So that shower does 2 things. One, it cleans you off a little bit. And then the other thing it does is when you finally do jump into that public pool, it's not so cold because you've already had that shower. So an introduction is kind of like that shower that you take before you jump into the pool. So it's getting folks ready, right? So it's cleaning them off a little bit because they've got their own ideas. You want them ready, like starting to think about your topic. And then the other thing it does is rather than just throw them into a pool, because imagine if you hadn't had that shower, if you just jumped into that pool, it's cold. So you want folks ready a little bit. You don't want them to be jumping into your pool of your essay and being discombobulated and thrashing around because it's cold. You want to get them ready. So an introduction really is an opportunity to get your audience ready. You want them to know what your purpose is, you want them to know what your thesis, and you want to engage them. You don't want to assume that they're interested in your topic. You're trying to get them interested in your topic. So here are some strategies that you can be using for your introduction. So I wouldn't do every single one of these, but I would maybe play with a few just to give you some different kinds of strategies to call upon in our class, but also in your future essays that you write. So maybe start with an example. Maybe provide some kind of description or an image. Maybe there's a paradoxical statement that you want to include, or a quotation, maybe a question. I wouldn't do more than 2 questions, 1 or 2 questions that are really leading, that are connected to the topic that you've chosen, an analogy, an anecdote. Maybe there's some kind of startling statistic or an unusual fact, but all of these are really strategies to help gain your audience's attention and really prepare them for what's coming later. So here's part of our essay rubric. So there's really 3 columns that I'm looking at. So the excellent and satisfactory column is really, these 2 are where you want to be. This is the A through C range. The unsatisfactory is the D to F range. And so we're really pushing towards being in that excellent column, right? So I'm only going to talk about that for this in this week's in this week's video. So in your introduction, I'm looking at, did you capture your audience's attention? Did you provide relevant background information? And then did you bring your reader into the context of your essay? Did you get them prepared? Did you give them that shower right before you're going to throw them into the body of your essay? Are you attempting to gain their interest, help them understand this is a topic, this is what you've chosen, and also getting them ready for the thesis statements? So we talked a little bit about thesis last time. So a thesis, and in our class, I am going to give you a question for every essay that you write, because I'm preparing you and I want you to be able to answer that question to get at your thesis statement. So answer the question. You're going to take a position on a debatable topic. The whole point of writing the essay is to explain how and why you arrived at your thesis statement. Why do you think that's true? And so your thesis statement needs to be a debatable topic, because if it's just a statement of fact, then that's a report. It wouldn't be an essay. And then again, it's also the central claim of your essay. It's the thing that every single body paragraph is going to focus on supporting. So in our rubric, an excellent thesis statement is something that's insightful, that it presents your perspective on the topic. It's clearly identifiable. And that's part of the reason we're going to do peer review later on, because if folks can't find the thesis statement, then you need to revise it. And then it states the main point of your essay. And then when I call it the central controlling idea of the essay, what that means is every single body paragraph is clearly focused on supporting it and is succeeding in supporting it. So body paragraphs. The whole point of creating body paragraphs is to develop support for your thesis. So it's going to provide evidence and it's going to provide reasoning to explain how and why your thesis is accurate. And then each body paragraph ought to have one main point. So for the purposes of our essays that we write in class, I want you to think about each paragraph being a meal. And I know that's kind of goofy, but still it works. So, and I'm borrowing this from Duke University. So each paragraph should be a meal. And what that means is it needs an M, it needs a main idea. Sometimes it's referred to as the topic sentence, but it needs to have a clearly focused central idea for that paragraph. So everything in that paragraph is focused on this main idea. So then it needs evidence. So this is the information that you're using to support your main idea. So it can be facts, it can be statistics, information from our course readings, personal experience, observations, but this is the evidence. So when folks ask, well, how do you know that? You're going to say, well, here's a piece of fact or a statistic, something that backs that main idea. Then in terms of analysis, you can't just provide evidence and let it speak for yourself. You always have to explain how the evidence supports your main idea. So this is where you come in with your critical thinking and your explanation to say, here's how I know this evidence is connecting back to my main idea. And then the last part of meal is the link. So it should be evident, but if it's not, then you want to make sure that there's some kind of connection back to your thesis statement so your audience understands how this whole body paragraph is now supporting your thesis. So here's the two big things from our essay rubric. So in terms of organization, paragraphs need to be clearly linked to the thesis and they need to serve as support. And then the ideas within your body paragraphs need to be logically organized. And so this is the space where hopefully you did your outlining where you were really clear about how you were moving through. And so in these body paragraphs, it's clear how meal is helping you work through it. And it's also then connected back to your thesis statement. So in terms of development, I'm looking to see that your thesis and then the main ideas, so the M's in all of your body paragraphs, are supported with evidence, examples, quotes, and details so that you provide the evidence. And then I'm looking in this next one here, I'm looking for your analysis, right? So I'm looking to see all this information, all these ideas that you included, have you analyzed them? Have you explained how all of these pieces are then connected back to your main idea of that body paragraph, but then also to your thesis statement? And then finally, I'm looking to see that have you fully explained and shared all of your critical thinking and all of your reasoning? So I'm looking for full disclosure of your ideas. So what's a conclusion? So most of the essays that you write in our class are not going to be much longer than 5 or 6 pages. So in a shorter essay like that, you can assume that folks are going to remember what your thesis statement is. So you don't need to give them in your conclusion a repetition of your thesis. You can remind them a little bit, but I think what's even more important is this last piece, is sharing with your audience what's the significance of your paper and why does this matter? So when folks have read your thesis statement, and they've read your body paragraphs, why is this a big deal? And so I sometimes tell my students to think about, and you might want to think about it as well, that so what question. Just anticipating somebody asking, well, so what? Why does this matter? And so in your conclusion, you answer those questions. So the last pieces here that I'm going to look at in our essay rubric is I'm going to look to see, have you addressed the significance of your topic? Have you answered that so what question? And then in terms of sentence and style, I'm going to look at your tone, your voice, your diction. I'm going to look at your sentence structure, and I'm going to look to see that you've proofread. I'm going to look to see that you did that last piece of the editing process. So I'm going to end us right here. I hope this helped. Also, it's only about 9 minutes and 30 seconds, so maybe you want to re-watch it, and I'll be talking to you later on in class.